Hey everybody, it's Alex with Engineering Applied. In this video, I'll be showing you how to use the section view command found within an Autodesk Inventor drawing file. If you want more easy to understand and practical content like this, made by an experienced engineer like myself, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any helpful content like this in the future. If you're looking for a specific function, check the description for timestamps, and if you don't find what you're looking for in this video, make sure you check out the other videos in my Autodesk Inventor series playlist because I know you'll find exactly what you need there. Let's get started. Okay, everybody, so here we are in our drawing file, and the first thing I did was I dropped a base view. Okay, so the center view here is our base view, and then I projected some views off of that base view just so you can get an idea of what we're looking at here. We have an electrical enclosure with a printed circuit board assembly on the inside, and we'll be using the section view to take a look at the inside of this enclosure without doing any other view representations or anything like that in the model itself. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is show you how to create the section view itself. So what you need to do is go up to the create section of the ribbon, click on section, and notice that the command is currently highlighted in blue. That means we are currently active with the section view. Now we need to go ahead and click on one of our views in which we want to create this section view off of. In this case, I want to use the base view in the center, so I'll left click on that view. And notice how my cursor changed to a plus sign. Now I can go ahead and start drawing the lines for our section view. I'll go ahead and left click, and for this example, I'll just go ahead and cut this in half roughly. So I'll left click on my mouse once, move my mouse down here, left click again. And then now that I'm done drawing my line, I can right click and then click continue. And it'll give me a preview of what the section view will look like. And of course, depending on which side of that line that you drew that your view is currently on, it will show you that corresponding direction. And if you look at the definition for the view here on this center view, it'll tell me which direction I'm looking from. Okay, so let's pull it out to the left side. Now, if I want to execute this command, I can either just left click right now, or I can change some settings in this command window. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these different fields available within this command window so that you can gain an understanding of what tools you have available to you. So, starting in the top left-hand corner, this is how we control how the view is identified, as well as the scaling of the view itself and whether or not we see the label identification. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the view identifier. So currently it's set to a letter A. So of course you can type whatever you need to in this field. So let's say I wanted this to be view CC, for example. I could type a letter C here. And now if I hit OK, or if I left click and drop this view, you can see it says section CC. Okay, so that is my identifier there. Let's go ahead and take a step back and do that again. Okay, we're back in our command window. Now let's move over to the right. This is our scale field. So simply put, you can open up this drop-down menu and select a predefined scale for this view. So let's say we want to set it to 3:1. Okay, so there we go. It gives us a preview of the section view at 3:1 scale, or you can type in a custom scale. So let's say I wanted a 3:2 scale. So if I type that in and left click, there you go. It's 3:2. Okay, so that is your scale field. Let's go back again. Okay, moving down to the bottom left-hand portion of the view scale label section, we have the toggle label visibility on or off. Okay, so currently it's on, so that little light bulb is lit up right now. But if I left click on that and drop the view, there you go. We don't have our label visibility active currently. So let's go ahead and take a step back. Okay, so now moving over to the right, we have our edit view label button. So when we click on this, we get another menu that pops up and we're able to format our text entities within this field. Okay, so you can do all sorts of standard word processing formatting here. So we can change the justification, we can change the font style, and so on and so forth. But one thing I want to focus in on are view label properties. So properties are these words that are highlighted, and simply put, all this does is it looks for the corresponding data in our fields that we filled out, and it inserts that text into this area. So this word section is just plain text, so it'll just show up as section, the word section. And this here is a view label property that looks for the view information that's in this view identifier field. So all that means is since we have a letter A here, this view will read section AA because we have a view label property here, just a hyphen here in the middle, and then we have another view label property. Okay, so that reads section AA. If I type a C in here, it'll be section CC, and so on and so forth. Now moving down, we have a similar entity, except this looks for the scale of the view. So whatever scale is set in this box here will be written out next to this plain text, okay? Because we have a view label property that is looking at scale. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how we can insert more view label properties. What I'll do first is I'll hit enter so we can move down a line. And we want to go to this first drop down menu. This is where all of your properties are housed. Okay, so you have all sorts of properties to choose from. You can pull information from your model data. You can pull information from the actual drawing data and so on and so forth. But these entities are found within this section here, view label properties. And let's say we just want to add another field for scale. So we'll click on scale. Moving to the right, we have this button called add text parameter. It's this little X with an arrow pointing down. We want to click on that to actually insert that view label property. Okay, so now that that's inserted, we can go ahead and click OK. And when we drop this view, you can see we have our scale inserted on that third line. We're now back in our section view command window. So let's go ahead and take a look at the style section. So this first button here allows us to see our hidden lines within our section view. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. I'll go ahead and click on that box there. Now, one thing I want to point out is you can either have hidden lines shown or removed. Okay, so when I select this second one, so when I remove the hidden lines, it automatically disables this first option, okay, and vice versa. So we'll go ahead and show hidden lines and click OK. And let's zoom in on this. You can see we have dashed lines, and these represent the bodies or the entities or the parts of the solid body that we can't see from this particular perspective normally. Okay, so this allows us to see a little bit more details that are hidden without having to take more section views. So this can be really helpful if you're trying to capture a lot of detail while minimizing the total amount of views in your drawing. Now let's go ahead and take a look at hidden lines removed. So I have this option selected and I'll left click to drop the view. And as you can see here, we no longer see those dashed lines, okay? In other words, we're no longer seeing those additional details that are normally hidden from this particular perspective, okay? So that's hidden lines removed. Next, we have the option to shade our view with this button that says shaded. So when we left click on that and drop the view, you can see our view is now shaded rather than unshaded like these other projections, okay? So let's go ahead and take a step back. I'd like to go ahead and make a point here about the shaded option and that you can use it alongside hidden lines as well. So you can shade the view and show hidden lines, or you can hide the hidden lines and shade it. Okay, so you can mix and match these options. Moving down, we have our section depth section, and within the section, we can control how deep our section view goes. So by default, it's set to full. So what you're seeing now in this particular view here is from this perspective, I'm cutting into the enclosure and then looking into the inside of it, starting from this end, okay? And one thing I want you to notice is that I can see these 4 fasteners passing through the assembly. Now, those correspond to these fasteners here, okay? Those are those same fasteners. Now, as I change the setting up here from full, which cuts all the way through, to distance, which goes to a blind depth, I want you to notice I'm only picking up certain details. Currently, the distance is set to 1/4 of an inch. And if you look at the view definition, so that line that says AA, and you look past it a little bit, you'll see a solid line drawn across, okay? So that is the stop distance for the section depth. So that distance between this view definition line and that solid black line is 1/4 of an inch, and we'll only see anything in that space, okay? So if we want to capture this second fastener here, we can increase this distance. So let's go ahead and increase that to 1¼ inches. And now in our preview, you can see we're picking up more detail here. We're seeing that second fastener. Let's increase this again to 2 inches. Okay, so now we see our third fastener. And then finally, let's set this to something like 3 inches. And there we go. We can see all the way through it. Moving to the right, let's go ahead and take a look at the slice section. Okay, so simply put, this allows us to include a slice operation alongside the section operation. So what we want to do is we want to check this box that says include slice. So when we check that, it'll allow us to include that slice, but it's not going to necessarily slice anything yet. Okay, so what this means is if we drop this view, so we'll go ahead and drop the section view. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to the details that we currently see, and particularly here in this USB connector. Now, when we go to our model browser and open up the information that's corresponding to this section view, and we go to the actual assembly itself and go down to the PCBA. Okay, so that's our printed circuit board assembly that contains this connector. And if we hover over that connector and right click on that and go to section participation, we can have it perform a slice on this component alone. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go to section participation and we'll click on slice. Look at how the visual representation of that connector has changed. And if you're unfamiliar with what a slice is, essentially all it does is it takes a plane. So you're looking at only a plane and not a three-dimensional view of the section itself. Okay, so when we take a section of something, so if I were to take a section just straight across here, so actually let's go ahead and do that so you can see what this looks like. So we'll just go ahead and take a section of this view. And let's say I just want to see what's underneath this cover without actually removing the cover as a view representation in the model. I can just draw the section. Okay, and pull this up. So now I can see a top-down view of what's underneath this cover. Okay, so a slice, on the other hand, only shows us the geometry that touches this section view line. So let me show you what that looks like. I'll click on Include Slice and Slice All Parts. And all we can see here is where that section view line touches one of the connectors. Okay, so this connector that resides over here on this side of the enclosure, and the fasteners and the extruded bosses that the fasteners thread into. Okay, so anyways, so that is what a slice is for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is. Now, as you already saw, I can slice through all of the parts, but let me show you what that looks like with this view that we started with. So if I go ahead and check this box that says include slice, and then also check this box that says slice all parts, it will slice through all of the parts within this command execution. Okay, so rather than doing the first checkbox and then executing this command and then going into the model browser and doing everything manually, I can go ahead and slice through all the parts right away if that's what I want to accomplish. And so when you look at this, we're essentially only looking at the 3D geometry that these lines touch. Okay, so this line is cutting through the midsection, it goes down and then cuts through this portion down here. So anything that intersects this line with reference to the model is all that we're seeing here. Now, I'd like to go ahead and point out that if we want to perform a slice using the section view line later on, it's always a good idea to check off that first box that says include slice. Now, if we don't check that off, let's go ahead and see what happens. So I've unchecked that option. We'll go ahead and drop this view. And if we go over to the model browser and try to repeat the same steps that we did before to do a section view, or rather a slice on this connector, you'll notice that it won't allow us to do so. So let's go ahead and zoom in on that. And I'll highlight this connector, right click it, and then go to section participation and click on slice. Now, when I do that, nothing changes. Okay, it's because I didn't allow that slice operation to happen when I initially executed that section view. Now, if you want to enable that after the fact, all you have to do is right click on your section view. So we right click on that, go to Edit Section Properties. Okay, and then we can check this box here. So we can do this after the fact. So we'll go to Include Slice. Okay, and now it redraws my view with that section participation set to slice. Next, let's go ahead and talk about our method section. So we have two main options. So we have projected and aligned. So in this particular case, it defaults to aligned because when I took my section, I cut downward and diagonally through a fastener, and then I moved horizontally off to the right. Now, when I have line segments that aren't 90 degrees to all the other line segments, it will essentially just stretch out that cut as if I'm pulling that view definition straight. So if it's like a piece of string and I'm pulling it straight, it's showing me that extra width that I normally wouldn't see if I was just looking at a projection. So let's go ahead and toggle back and forth between these two options just so you can get a better idea of what this does. So currently it is set to aligned. I'll set it to projected. And as you can see there, now we're seeing a true projection from that point of view. So we're not seeing a head-on look at that fastener and that boss that has been cut in half. Okay, so this is really critical because if you do have an angled section within your view, and you want to have a projection and you want the dimensions to be true to what you would actually see from that point of view, make sure you're using the projected option. If you're trying to capture a little bit more detail in that area with that line that's not set 90 degrees to the other lines, then you want to use aligned. And notice how when I have this set to aligned and I move this closer, the width of the section view is actually wider than the actual part itself. Okay, again, that's because this angled line is essentially being stretched out so you can see in full detail straight on to that cut. So those are your two main options there. And you can see again with projected, it shrinks that down. And then we have the true width of the part there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our cut edges section. So within this section, this allows us to control the visualization of our section view when we have a partial section. So as you can see, my section does not go all the way through my part. And when your section doesn't go all the way through your part and you have this first option enabled, okay, this essentially sets this side or whichever side does not go all the way through your part as a jagged line. So if I were to drop this, you can see here, I have a jagged line on that cut edge. Okay, so now let's go back and see what it looks like when we set that to smooth. Okay, so we'll go ahead and drop this line somewhere about there. All right, we'll set this to smooth instead of jagged, okay? And when it's set to smooth and we drop this, you can see it's just a clean cut at the end point of the section. Now, let's look at some other ways we can create these section views. So in this first example, I want to capture some detail associated with all four of these fasteners in one section view. So what I'll do is I'll go to section, click on this view, and I'll start creating lines that intersect the center point of all of these fasteners. So I'll just hover over this circular feature here and then go out off of the part. All right, and I'll just draw a straight line and just repeat those steps for all of these fasteners. All right. Okay, so now that we've gotten all of our lines drawn, I'll right click and go to continue, and I'll pull my mouse cursor off the left side. And as you can see, I have all of the detail that I need around those fasteners. So I can left click to drop that view into the drawing. And let's zoom in on that. So we can see all of the detail associated with how this fastener rests on this bottom cover. As you can see here, we see that same amount of detail for all of these fasteners with a single section view. Now, let's say, for example, I want to remove only the corner of the enclosure so that I can see the connector that resides in this area while maintaining the rest of the model. Okay, so all I have to do is click on section, click on the view. Okay, and then I'll just go ahead and draw two lines 90 degrees to one another. All right, and then I'll right click and go to continue and pull this over in this direction. So as you can see, when I drop this view, the rest of my enclosure is still intact, except for this section that I cut out of the corner so that I can see this connector that lives on the inside of that enclosure. Now, before I go ahead and finish up this video, I want to talk about some ways we can edit the section view after we've already executed the command. So let's go ahead and create a section view here. So I'll just use this base view and just go down the middle. Okay. And I'll pull it off to the side. Now, before we actually execute this command, if you hold Control on your keyboard, you can actually break the alignment of this section view. Okay, so the view definition, so that AA line there will stay, but you can move this wherever you want. Now, if you release the Control key on your keyboard, it'll snap back into alignment. Okay, so that's a handy trick to break the alignment before you've executed the command. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and drop this somewhere down here. Okay, there we go. And now we can just move this wherever we want, and that view definition still stays the same. Even when we move to this side, it doesn't matter because this is still being projected from this perspective. Now, we've seen how we can break the view alignment before we execute the command. Let's take a look at how we can break that after we've already dropped our view into the drawing. Okay, so if I go to move this, I cannot move it up and down. Okay, it's locked in horizontally to this base view. So all I have to do is right click on my section view of interest, go down to alignment, and left click on break. Okay, when I do that, it breaks the alignment for my view. And that works with these projected views as well. So another thing I want to talk about is extending or shortening these lines, as well as flipping the direction after you drop your section view. So let's go ahead and execute the command. And all you have to do is hover over the view definition. So you can hover over those arrows there, and you can actually grab these little snap points and move them outwards if you want to extend or retract the section. So I'll left click and hold and then just pull it outwards. And when I do that, it'll redraw that segment there. So let's say I just want to pull this inwards, and we'll hit accept on that. We'll pull this in just a little bit. All right, so now it's redrawn my section view, and I didn't have to erase or undo anything. Now let's go ahead and fix this. So we'll pull that back out, and let's reverse the direction. So to reverse the direction, all you have to do is right click on that definition and go to reverse direction. And when we do that, it redraws the view from the other direction. We can also change the style of the arrowheads by right clicking on the view definition and going to edit first arrowhead or edit second arrowhead, and then opening up this drop down and selecting our arrowhead of interest, and then clicking this check mark. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Or we can hover over the view definition here and click on this little green dot on the rear side of this arrowhead. Okay, so if we double click on that and notice the symbology that pops up next to my mouse cursor when I'm hovering over the correct spot, I double click, and then now I can go ahead and change the arrowhead style. So we can change that to circle, hit that check mark, and there we go. Now we have a new arrowhead style. To change the style settings of the section view itself, all you have to do is either right click on the view and click edit view, or you can just double click on the view itself, and it will open this drawing view window in which you can change all of your style settings as well as your labeling settings. Okay, so if you drop this into your drawing and you forgot to change your lettering here, you can do that after the fact by double clicking on the view and changing your lettering here. So we'll change this to a letter C and click OK. And when we do that, it actually changes the lettering in the view definition as well. That's all for this segment of the Autodesk Inventor Drawing Creation module, where I gave you an overview of the section view command. I really hope that you found this tutorial to be helpful and that you put what you've learned into practice so you can continue developing your skills as you work your way through these lessons. Also, before you watch the next video in the series, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date on future content that will help you create the future you want for yourself. And of course, don't hesitate to leave a comment or reach out via my website contact page and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to learn about or see on this channel. I really appreciate you choosing to stop by and learn with me, and I'll see you again soon.